Hello everyone, it is February the 24th, 2019. pproteus here, back for another Pauper challenge, today with Hexproof. And I'm on a build that's kind of my own design, and it's been serving me well. I don't think it's actually too different from stock builds, but the differences you do see is 0 tap lands, and I cut some creatures. And the sideboard is bizarre, but that's because I don't plan on sideboarding very much. So I want to have access to whatever effects I'm looking for. I think of this as a relatively simple deck to play, but I think people claim that it is simpler than it actually is. And that's because my opponents are... Maybe I don't have any instants in my deck, but my opponents have instants in their deck, and I have to figure out how to play around them. I think of this deck as a combo deck. And the combo is Forest plus White Source plus Hexproof guy plus payoff. And the payoffs are Ethereal Armor or Ancestral Mask. And then maybe a fifth piece is I have to be able to give my guy trample. So this hand has basically all of those. It doesn't have very many lands, so that's a strike against it, but it's not full of 3 mana cards either. It's full of 1 mana cards. So definitely keeping this hand. And let's see here. So my plan is... It's going to depend on how my opponent starts things off. My opponent's starting off with Tron. So, against Tron, especially game 1, they're going to try to fog lock us. So we're going to have to kill them as fast as we possibly can. And to do that, I do want to get Bogle plus payoff online as fast as possible, but the chip damage also doesn't matter very much. It's either I'm attacking productively or I'm not. They're not going to be getting a ton of life, but they are going to try to lock me out of the game at some point. So I'm going to start off with Abundant Growth, just with the goal of hitting a second land. I'm not too worried that my opponent's going to say hold up Condescend here, although that could be a thing that happens, and then I get completely screwed over. My deck is not really cooperating, because clearly the thing I want is like 1 more land, and it's not giving that to me. But I'm going to hope my opponent doesn't have anything. They've got, down to 2-3 cards. What can they do with those cards? If they can do something super powerful, we're going to lose, because this Bogle by itself is not super powerful. For example, if they have the card in their deck and in their hand, they could go with 6 mana, Teachings for Electricity, cast Electricity, and the Bogle is dead. So I'm hoping, well, that doesn't seem to be what's happening, but there are just some things that you run into when you're playing with this deck that just make you lose. And that's part of playing this deck. You have to accept it, that some games, they will have a card that either you can never beat, or that you could beat, but it wasn't worth trying to prepare for. And if they have one of those, you are going to lose the game, and there's nothing you can do about it. So don't hate yourself for losing those sort of games. Just keep in mind that your deck, that this Hexproof deck, is built to assemble those kinds of games in the other direction, where all the time, when you play against Hexproof, surely you know from playing on the other side, your commentary is, oh man, my opponent's on Hexproof. I guess I lose game 1. Guess I have to hope to draw my sideboard cards game 2 and 3. Things like that. So we might just say, oh man, our opponent has the main board Electricity and we lose. But really, it could be worse than that. It could be worse than that. We are gonna auto lose some, but we're gonna auto win so many more that hopefully it'll be worth it. Opponent's gone Mnemonic Wall, and the Mnemonic Wall is getting their crop rotation back. That's really interesting. So usually what they want to be doing is, like, basically their goal is to assemble Mnemonic Wall Flicker in this matchup. I don't have a lot I can do against that, although I do have a couple of main deck relics. So if I can find one of those in time, then, like, before they have a bunch of counter magic, then that could break up, or before they bounce my lands, then that could break up the loop. But them playing the Mnemonic Wall early indicates to me that they just don't have a lot of action. They probably just don't have a lot of anything. So this point, this unbridled growth is kind of speaking to me. It's saying, draw a card. But I'm worried about something like Pulse of Marasa, where if my opponent has, their plan is to block with the Demonic Wall and then cast Pulse, then I want to make sure I can kill them on the next turn if that's all they can do. Or at least force them to Pulse for a land or something. And after this, I can Unbridled Growth. But I am comforted a little bit by the fact that they played the Demonic Wall when they did, because it means that my opponent does not have anything more powerful than a Crop Rotation to get back. Crop Rotation is super powerful against a lot of decks. Against a lot of decks, just bringing back a Bajuka Bog out of your deck at instant speed is really strong, or a Quicksand, or whatever else these decks are playing. Not really sure what's in my opponent's list. But against me, there aren't really any lands you can put onto the battlefield that are broken. Like, sure, there are these lands that tap for 3 mana, but that's just mana. If you think of your normal philosophy, I'm gonna try to teach you the philosophy, how to think like a hexproof player, because it's not like playing other decks. I like to play decks like Boros all the time, where the focus is, how do I eke out these tiny little advantages? And when I'm on hexproof, it's like most of my opponent's deck just doesn't matter. So 2-for-1s are just not a thing. It's not about any of that. It's just about time. It's about how many turns is it going to take me to kill my opponent? How many turns does my opponent have to find an answer and cast it, deploy it? And you really have to change your mindset. When you're playing other decks, you can think about, oh, if my opponent has Pyroblast, I get blown out, and you can work really hard to play around Pyroblast. With this deck, sometimes there's only so hard you can work. So, playing against Tron, not really sure how many of these things I want, but I do want some of them. So, I've got 3 Flaring Pains on my sideboard. These are definitely coming in. These are probably great. I've got a Dispel that I'm going to consider bringing in. My opponent's planned to cast like a Moment's Peace and win the game off the back of that. That's not going to work. And I've got maybe a couple of Natural States, Mutagenic if I want to be countering Electricity. I think I want to not sideboard too much though, because Tron is really just not about... It's not about whether or not I have enough answers for their answers. It's really, can I present a clock fast enough? Because they have to spend their first several turns setting up. So the thing I want most of all is just turn 4 kill. I want to be able to do that consistently. But I think I will just side out a few of the more a few of the narrower cards. Armadillo Cloak I still like a tiny bit because of the trample, but the lifelink is just irrelevant. So I'm thinking of it as like copy number 5 of Terrible Rancor. And we're going to run this. So I think splash cards, basically, I mean, I only have Force in my deck, but I've got 3 Vestige, 4 Abundant Growth, 2 Unbridled Growth, which is a fancy card from Aether Revolt that is cantrips for 1 green mana, or fixes your color, and adds to your enchantment count while it does that. And then you can just cycle it at any time for free. And then, of course, the Utopia Sprawl, which is a very powerful card. So I think that I've found that the splash cards tend not to be an issue, even though my only the only colors you can see in my mana base are green. So let's run to the next game, and the goal is to do something powerful and do it fast. So we got this hand here. This hand is super interesting. We're keeping this hand. So again, the combo is we need land. We need a white source. We got that over here. We need a hexproof guy. We got that. We need a payoff. We got that. So I have to keep this hand. But the interesting part is I'm going to be tempted to play this Vestige on turn 2 probably. And I don't really want to do that. Tempted to play the Vestige on turn 2. Also tempted to play Utopia Sprawl here, name blue. I think I can't. I think I can't afford it. I know I have a blue card in my hand and I don't have a white card, but if I have to play the Vestige because I draw something and then I am tempted. Okay, well I drew Forest and now I feel dumb. It's fine though. It's fine. I wish I would now. I wish I had chosen blue. So in case I'm not being clear here, the idea is I will have to find a blue source that isn't Crumbling Vestige if I want to be able to cast this as spell ever. But I know I really want to play the Vestige next turn in a lot of scenarios because I'm trying to cast Ancestral Mask in a reasonable time frame, but I've just drawn lands. So that's what's happened. Another thing you have to accept, by the way, when playing this deck, is how your draws are going to go. A lot of people again say that it's worse than it is. They say that you're just going to mulligan to Oblivion and just keep unkeepable hands or keep unkeepable hands all the time. And I find that to not be very true. I don't think there are so many unkeepable hands that I've been forced to keep. But on the other hand, you're not playing blue deck. You don't get to play Preordained. Sometimes you will just draw 4 lands in a row and lose because of that, when like any single aura would have won you the game. And that's another thing, you just have to live with it. So I think I'm going to use my Vestige this turn. I already have the Utopia Sprawl for white. So I'm going to use this and make some blue and try to defend myself, because my opponent holding up mana here, it looks like they probably want to cast Condescend. And in the future, I will do things like this without the Dispel in my hand, just for the sake of bluffing. But here it's just because the Crumbling Vestige is so awkward, I'm afraid I'll never be able to cast it. And yeah, you can think of that as a huge tell, but I'm not even guaranteed to have the Dispel in my deck in the next match. Could just side it out. Could decide I'm making poor decisions. What to cast Reap and Sow, destroying my land. That's something. Could think about playing the Relic there, but I don't like exposing myself to Electricity, so have to play the Mask, and have the added bonus of getting to play into increasing my clock. So we'll see what my opponent does here. They may just assemble Tron off their crop rotation, but we're unlikely to get locked out of the game, and so that much we can feel good about. And again, they could have any number of random sideboard cards that we're not prepared for. It looks like they're not doing anything, but they could just cast, any Color of Hate card here. Could cast Serene Heart and then we lose. Could cast Edict and we lose. Could cast Aura Flux and we lose. And that's just fine. That's just the way it is. We're just gonna try our best. Get our guys in there, and pretty close to killing the opponent. We're definitely threatening lethal, even though we only have 6 power on the board and there are 8. Just any aura we draw, even an Abundant Growth, deals lethal damage. So opponent has to be very, very careful they don't just randomly die. Genrova Horror. That could be bad. That could be bad. They're bouncing the Mask here, so if they have Electricity, then we get totally wrecked. We're going to discard, I guess, the Dispel. And now that we've shown it to them, we're gonna side it out. I believe that's the correct thing to do. We're going to cast this, because we can't do nothing. And I'm putting it over there just to kind of diversify my threats. even though I can't attack so much with it right now. I just want to be able to protect myself from some number of stupid things. The opponent's done a good job here. They've done a good job, and they're not assembling a loop. They don't have that yet, so no need to concede. But they're certainly stopping us from being productive. I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if the dispel is correct. I have no idea. I haven't tested. I just figure that some matchups it'll be like better than a random card. Like the 1-mana auras, the Spider Umbra that I cited out for the dispel. Those are mainly here just to allow me to play around Electricity. And since I do not believe my opponent has Electricity, there's really no incentive for me to be playing that card. Ooh, this is rough. Opponent's casting Ancient Grudge. This is not what I wanted to see. I think we're going to have to, unfortunately, cast and pop this Relic this turn. Because we can't just... I don't want to just let my opponent untap. No, they have exactly enough mana to cast Teachings. Okay, never mind. Casting the Mask. They have exactly enough mana for Teaching, so they're gonna probably get a Fog. Now I feel dumb for putting the Mask on the Glade Cover Scout. I didn't think about that enough. For some reason, I thought it was gonna be like +4/+4 though, and I thought they had an answer, or I thought it was gonna be plus. I don't know. I was thinking about it definitely wrong. So. Could have played the Relic there. Relic kind of... The problem is what I want to do with the Relic is kind of leave it on the battlefield for a while. And I can't really do that with the Grudge in the graveyard. So I'm going to have to just play the Relic and snipe their graveyard. And I'm hoping to be able to do that at a point where my opponent has something valuable in there. They have the Flicker. Oh shoot, they have a Ray of Revelation. I did not know my opponent had Ray of Revelation in their deck. That's not going to be good for me. That's not good at all. So they went Teachings for Teachings, and then Teachings for Ray of Revelation. So now they have 3 flashback cards in their graveyard. Now it's Relic time. Because if I get getting to snipe this Teachings is probably just as good as a lot of the other things that I could snipe. Getting to snipe a Teachings is probably just as good as getting to snipe a Moment's Peace. They're going to cast Ray of Revelations in response. That's fine, as long as they don't trick me with it. There's nothing I could have done about that. I cannot attack with the Ledgewalker. They're going to block with the Muldrifter. But I think this game is still winnable, because my opponent doesn't have any cards in their hand, and we broke out their Teachings loop. So they may have been relying on that. Probably not going to win, but definitely can't concede. Definitely not. And if my opponent has locked the board down and I never get to do anything, then that's on me to accept that. That's how the game rolls. That's hexproof. You say, do you have an answer? You probably don't. And if you do, I probably lose. And I get to play some meta answers. I get to play the Dispels of sorts, although Dispel looked really lame there, didn't it? So I certainly haven't sold you or myself on the Dispel. I wasn't really sure I wanted to be playing it in the first place, so I'm thinking that is some pretty solid evidence towards the answer being no. That I can't just play splash cards unless they're going to have a whole lot of impact. I was thinking that was not the case going into this match. Maybe I will try it again in some other match. On the other hand, if I had a Spider Umbra here, would I be doing better? I mean, I might have killed my opponent, though. I might have killed my opponent if I had the Spider Umbra. So probably the answer is yes. So I guess that Spider Umbra, because they went down to 4, and I hit them with 2 Ancestral Masks in a turn, so they would have had to interact definitely faster. I think game's over here. I don't think I can reasonably assemble lethal before this Crusher destroys all my permanents. Just wanna see my card, and yeah, we're done here. So my opponent, gotta be careful of this card. That is scary. Also gotta be afraid of Reap and Sow. Probably not gonna respect it too much. It's certainly not for this matchup. And one of the hardest things about playing Hexproof is that your opponents have so many dead cards that they side out all their dead cards and side in things that are kind of designed to cheese you, that they're not good against you, like Reap and Sow. This isn't in their matchup. This isn't in their sideboard for the Hexproof matchup. It's probably in the sideboard for the Mirror. Look, crop rotation into Reap and Sow sounds real good. But they're going to bring it in because it has a chance of winning them the game. And now I have to play around it. So the next time I'm trying to decide how to cast my Utopia Sprawls, I'm going to remember my opponent has Reap and Sow in their deck. I lost a game. I lost that game due to sideboarding badly, and I hope I can win the match, because that would be an embarrassing thing to have make me lose. Could do the natural states again. Something certainly to consider, but it's not functional here. So there's this hand. We've got certainly have green sources. 3 lands is kind of what you want. 3 mana. Yes, the most expensive cards in my deck cost 3. So I have that. I have a white source. I don't have a payoff card. I don't have an Ethereal Armor or an Ancestral Mask. Cartouche is not really a payoff card. It's so slow. I also don't have a creature. So I'm missing 2 out of 4 things, especially with 4 lands in hand, so we're going to maul. This hand it doesn't have a land and doesn't have a creature, so we're missing 2 out of 4 things again. Mulligan. Down to 5 cards. You got to start keeping bad hands when you get to 5 cards, and you will keep bad 5-card hands, and that's where I think Hexproof, assuming it's being played by good players, that's where I think Hexproof does deserve the reputation for being swingy. But it's not because it's like the deck's failing me. It's because I had to not keep either of those 5-card hands because they were bad, or not keep the more than 5-card hands, not keep the 7-card or the 6-card. And when I'm looking for 4 different criteria in my hand, and I'm keeping a 5-card hand, so you usually have to keep hands that don't have all those 4 things, and then sometimes you won't hit them because I'm not playing a deck full of preordains. So to that extent, it is fair. I'm going to keep this hand. This is honestly pretty great as far as a slow 5-card hand goes. I'm going to put that one on top, and I'm gonna try to get somewhere. So I can plan ahead with my turn here. The next turn I'm going to draw the Ancestral Mask. I'm not going to draw anything fancy. So if I play the Utopia Sprawl on 1, then on 2 I would just Glade Cover Scout. And that's not very productive. So I'm going to play the Glade Cover... Well, it's about as productive as this play, but I'm playing the Glade Cover Scout on turn 1 because it lets me do basically 1 extra damage. And 1 extra damage matters when my opponent is trying to cast Fog and wants to go to as low of a life total as possible before casting the first Fog. So if I can make them Fog 1 turn earlier than they want to, I'm happy. Opponent has assembled Tron on turn 3. That's rough. That's not what I want to play against, really. Really not. Gonna hold on to this Vestige for a little while. Maybe we'll be able to do something cool with it, like cast Flaring Pain and then attack when my opponent is clearly representing Moment's Peace. Wow, look at my opponent here. They got everything. I guess my opponent could have Reap and Sow here, and then I get punished for not playing the Vestige if I draw a land. I did not consider that, but they totally could have Reap and Sow. I was saying I have to think about it when I'm deciding what to do with my lands, and then I didn't think about it. So, you know, I'm making mistakes here. This deck is not easy. And it's not easy because Magic is a hard game. Not because of anything, not anything super special about this deck. This deck kind of just forces you to make decisions and then get punished or rewarded immediately. It's in your face. But then there's no subtlety of, oh, maybe I win this like 20 turn game by attacking with an Augur Bolas an extra few times. Some of those subtleties are gone. This is not a subtle deck. It's a crush your face kind of deck. I'm going to play the land. I'm going to make up for the mistake I played last time. If I draw a 3-drop and they Reap and Sow this, then I'm going to want to do that. And attack and see what they do with that colored mana. They could have Ray of Revelation. They could have had, I don't even know. Ray of Revelation is the scariest thing I was thinking of. Because if they can just eat one of the masks, then they only take like 3, and they get to flash back the Ray on the next turn, eat the other mask. As it stands, they're dead on board. A Chump Blocker would save them, assuming I don't draw a Trample Aura. A Fog would save them. So they're probably just gonna like be happy playing a Muldrifter and blocking. And I really hope my top deck punishes this. Because if it does, the game is over. You can't blame them for wanting to ride on a Muldrifter like this. I don't judge them for that. It's a good play, even if they don't have like a way to represent Fog here. It's much better to go on this, because if I had a Rancor, then I would have played it already. So they're pretty confident I don't have a Rancor in my hand. And then Armored Glow Cloak, they know that's not great, and if I have anything that I want to side in and they saw the Dispel, so they think that I do, then I wouldn't be playing that. But the gods have smiled upon us, and we get to kill our opponent on turn 5. So that's Hexproof for y'all. I'm 1-0, and I'll see you in round number 2.